Marcus Rivera learned early in his cultural liaison career that the most important thing wasn't memorizing customs or mastering protocols. It was paying attention. Really paying attention to what people weren't saying, what their body language revealed, what their isolation suggested about their circumstances. Which is how he noticed her. Nexus Station was a massive hub where hundreds of species intersected, and Marcus's job was facilitating communication, smoothing misunderstandings, preventing accidental wars through cultural ignorance. He was good at it because he genuinely liked people, all kinds of people, from all kinds of worlds, and his curiosity overrode any instinct to judge based on appearance or reputation. He first saw her in the industrial sector during routine liaison rounds. Zara. He'd learn her name later, but even before that, she was impossible to miss. She stood nearly 8 feet tall, built with muscle that made human athletes look delicate. Her skin shifted through warm colors like living sunset. Amber, copper, deep orange. Patterns that flowed and changed with what Marcus suspected was emotional state. And her ears. Long, elegant, sweeping back from her head in graceful curves that were mobile and expressive, currently angled in concentration as she maneuvered cargo containers that should have required powered equipment. She moved with precision despite her size, her strength casual and controlled. Beautiful, Marcus thought, powerful, and completely, utterly alone. That was what struck him most. Not her size or strength or the way she made the heavy industrial equipment look like toys, but how other Keithrans, her species, reacted to her presence. They avoided her, gave her wide berth in corridors, didn't make eye contact, treated her like dangerous weather pattern rather than colleague. Even non-Keithrans kept distance, responding to some signal Marcus didn't understand, but that clearly marked her as someone to fear or avoid. Marcus watched her finish securing a cargo load, her movements efficient and solitary, then retreat to the break area where she sat alone while other workers clustered in social groups that pointedly excluded her. "Hey, quick question," Marcus asked his Keithran coworker during their shared shift. "The woman working Cargo Bay 3, the tall one with the copper skin tones, who is she?" His coworker's ears flattened, discomfort Marcus's cultural database supplied. "That's Zara, she's problematic." "Problematic how? She seems incredibly efficient at her job." "Oh, she's excellent at work, but she's..." The coworker struggled for words. Too big, too strong, too intense. Keithran culture values balance in partnerships, males and females of similar size and temperament. Zara exceeds acceptable parameters by significant margin. She's unapproachable. Unapproachable because she's dangerous. Unapproachable because she's intimidating. No male dares court her. She's been isolated her entire adult life. It's tragic, but that's the reality of being statistical outlier in species that values conformity. The coworker's tone suggested this was settled fact. Best to maintain professional distance. She's difficult. Marcus watched Zara through the observation window, sitting alone, her massive frame making the break room furniture look like children's toys, her expression carefully neutral. And he noticed something his coworker had missed. Her ears. They weren't angled in aggression or threat. They were angled in loneliness, constantly tracking other workers' social interactions, pulling back slightly each time someone avoided her gaze. She was watching people connect, watching companionship she was excluded from, and her careful neutrality was defensive armor against the pain of constant rejection. She wasn't difficult. She was isolated. There was a significant difference. The next day, Marcus arranged his rounds to intersect with the industrial sector's shift change. He happened to be walking through the corridor when Zara emerged from the cargo bay, tools secured, her shift apparently complete. They were suddenly face to face, or more accurately, face to chest, given that Marcus's eyes were roughly level with her sternum. She stopped immediately, clearly expecting him to retreat like everyone else did. Her expression locked into careful neutrality, defensive armor going up. Marcus looked up, way up, met her eyes and smiled. Just a simple, genuine smile, nothing flirtatious or calculated. Just acknowledgement of her as a person worth friendly greeting. "Hi," he said. "I'm Marcus, cultural liaison. You're Zara, right? I've seen you working in the cargo bays. You're incredibly efficient." Zara froze completely. Her eyes went wide, pupils contracting sharply. Her ears shot straight up, shock so profound her cultural training couldn't suppress it. She stared at him like he'd done something impossible, like smiling at her violated some fundamental law of physics or social interaction. Then her skin flushed through colors Marcus's limited Kithran cultural knowledge couldn't quite interpret, something between deep amber and bright copper spreading across her face and down her neck. Embarrassment, hope, confusion, all three. The silence stretched. Marcus waited, maintaining his friendly expression, giving her time to process. "You're speaking to me?" Zara finally managed, her voice deep and carrying harmonics that made Marcus's bones resonate pleasantly. "Voluntarily, without work requirement." "Yeah, is that weird?" "Yes," she said it with absolute certainty. "People don't speak to me voluntarily. They avoid me, keep professional distance. I make them uncomfortable." "But you don't make me uncomfortable, you make me curious." Marcus tilted his head. "Want to get coffee? Well, whatever the Kithran equivalent is, I'd like to hear more about your work. Heavy cargo logistics fascinates me, and you clearly know the field." Zara looked like he just proposed something scandalous. "You want to have social beverage with me, voluntarily. Unless you're busy. I don't want to impose on your time." "I'm never busy, socially." Her skin continued cycling through increasingly bright colors. "No one invites me to social activities, ever. Are you certain you have the correct person?" "Pretty sure." "You're Zara, you work cargo logistics, you're standing right in front of me and I just invited you to coffee." Marcus smiled again. "So, yes, no, I know a decent cafe in Section 7, my treat." "You're serious?" She said it like confirming something impossible. "You actually want to spend time with me, despite..." She gestured at herself, her height, her build, her general overwhelming physical presence. "Despite what?" "You seem interesting and I'd like to get to know you. That's pretty straightforward." Marcus started walking toward Section 7, and after a moment of frozen disbelief, Zara followed. Her footsteps were heavy but careful, like someone used to being too large for spaces designed for smaller beings. She moved with constant awareness of her size, pulling her limbs in slightly, making herself smaller in ways that suggested years of practice trying not to take up too much space. "You really don't have to do this," she said as they walked. "If this is some cultural liaison obligation or diversity initiative." "It's not. I genuinely want to have coffee with you and learn about your work." Marcus glanced up at her. "Why is that so hard to believe?" "Because no one wants to spend time with me. I'm too big, too strong, too much. I've accepted that reality." Her ears flattened, resignation, sadness. "You're being kind, but you don't have to force yourself." "I'm not forcing anything. I'm a cultural liaison because I like meeting people from different backgrounds and learning about their perspectives. You're a person. I'm interested in your perspective. The math is simple." They reached the cafe in Section 7, a multi-species establishment with adaptive furniture and varied menu options. Marcus ordered human coffee. Zara ordered something that looked like molten copper and probably was, given Kithran biochemistry. They sat at a table that automatically expanded to accommodate her frame, and Marcus noticed again how carefully she moved, making herself smaller, minimizing space occupied, constant awareness that she was too big for standard furniture. "So," Marcus said, breaking the awkward silence, "tell me about cargo logistics. How do you coordinate heavy equipment across different gravity zones?" "You actually want to know?" Zara's ears angled forward, hope mixed with suspicion. "I actually want to know. I'm curious how interspecies logistics work. It's complex problem-solving and you clearly excel at it." So Zara talked. Hesitantly at first, Then with growing confidence as she realized Marcus's interest was genuine. She described coordinating shipments from dozens of worlds, the physics of moving massive cargo in variable gravity, managing equipment that could kill through negligence. Her passion for the work became evident as defensive armor lowered incrementally. Marcus listened, asked intelligent questions, made connections between Kithran logistics and human supply chain management. And he watched Zara transform from carefully neutral to genuinely animated, her ears expressing emotions her controlled face wouldn't show: interest, enthusiasm, the simple joy of being heard. "You're really good at this," Marcus observed when she finished explaining gravity differential calculations. "Most people's eyes glaze over when I talk about cultural protocol matrices. You made cargo physics actually interesting. Most people find me intimidating rather than interesting." She stared at her beverage. "I'm statistical outlier among Kithrans, too large, too strong. Our culture values balance in partnerships, mates of similar size and capability. I exceed those parameters significantly. It makes me—" She paused. "Undesirable." "Undesirable how?" "You're brilliant at your job, clearly passionate about it. And you've been nothing but kind to me despite the fact that I'm a random human who invited you to impromptu coffee. Kind and desirable are different things." Her ears flattened completely. "No Kithran male will approach me. I'm too intimidating. Too much. Even other species keep distance. You're the first person in years to voluntarily start conversation that wasn't work required." Marcus processed this. "That's lonely. Very lonely." She said it simply, without self-pity, just stating fact. "But it's reality of being what I am. I've accepted it." "Have you?" "Because you looked pretty shocked when I smiled at you in the corridor." "Because no one smiles at me. They avoid eye contact and hope I don't notice them. You looked directly at me and smiled like I was normal person worth greeting." That was, her skin shifted through complex colors. Unexpected. "Why did I smile?" Marcus shrugged. "Because you're a person and I'm friendly, seemed like normal thing to do." "It's not normal, not for me." She studied him with intensity that should have been uncomfortable but somehow wasn't. "You're very strange human, Marcus Rivera." "I've been told that before. I usually take it as compliment." He grinned. "Want to do this again?" "I'm curious about a lot of things you mentioned. And honestly, it's nice talking to someone who's as passionate about their work as I am about mine." Zara stared at him like he'd spoken in incomprehensible language. "You want to continue spending time with me, voluntarily. This isn't obligation or cultural exchange program. This is me enjoying your company and wanting more of it. Pretty simple." Marcus stood. "Same time tomorrow. You can tell me more about those gravitational calibration procedures. Sounds fascinating." Zara's ears cycled through at least 6 different positions, expressing emotions too complex for Marcus to parse. "Same time tomorrow, I would, very much like that." Marcus left feeling like he'd accomplished something significant, though he wasn't sure what. Behind him, Zara sat for another 15 minutes, processing the impossible reality that someone had voluntarily sought her company, smiled at her without fear, listened to her talk about work with genuine interest, and wanted to do it again. Her ears were angled straight up: joy, hope, and the terrifying vulnerability of daring to believe she might not be alone anymore. Daily coffee meetings became routine over the following weeks. Marcus and Zara met in Section 7's cafe, occupying their regular table that the staff started keeping reserved. They talked about everything: cargo logistics and cultural protocols, Kithran society and human diversity, personal histories and professional challenges. Marcus learned that Zara's isolation wasn't just social preference but consequence of biology. Kithran culture valued symmetry in partnerships. Males and females courted through elaborate displays of matched strength and capability. But Zara was genetic anomaly. Nearly a foot taller than average Kithran female, significantly stronger, her physical capabilities exceeding what any male could match. It made courtship impossible, she explained during one conversation. Males perform traditional strength displays. Females evaluate and choose. But what happens when female exceeds all males' capabilities? I stopped attending courtship gatherings years ago. Too painful watching males avoid me. Have you ever been courted? Marcus asked. Once, when I was younger and not yet my full size. Her ears flattened with remembered pain. Male performed displays, lifting, running, combat demonstrations. I was excited, grateful someone was interested. Then he asked to see my work. Watched me lift cargo he couldn't budge, perform tasks he couldn't match. He never returned. I was too strong, made him feel inadequate. That's his inadequacy, not yours. Perhaps, but pattern repeated with every potential courtship. Eventually I learned to stop hoping. She stared at her beverage. I'm outside parameters of what Catherine males find acceptable. Too much strength, too much size, too much capability. I threatened their sense of competency. Marcus wanted to say something reassuring, but his mind went directly to human males would find that incredibly attractive. The words were out before he could stop them. Zara's ears shot straight up, her skin flushing brilliant copper. You, what? I mean, Marcus scrambled. Not that I'm specifically, that is, just generally speaking, human culture values different things. Strength and capability aren't threatening. They're impressive. You're not intimidated by size and capability difference. Her voice was carefully controlled, but her ears betrayed intense interest. Marcus decided honesty was the only option. No, I think you're incredible. The way you work, your intelligence, your kindness despite years of isolation. Your physical strength is just part of who you are. Why would that be intimidating? Because I could hurt you easily, break you without trying. Most species find that threat concerning. You have immense capability and choose gentleness. That's not threatening, that's trustworthy. Marcus met her eyes. You could hurt people easily, but you don't. You're constantly careful, constantly aware of your strength. That's what makes you safe, not dangerous. I trust you more than anyone on this station, specifically because you're strong enough to be gentle. Zara stared at him, her skin cycling through colors Marcus was learning meant profound emotion. You trust me. Completely. You've never given me reason not to. Most beings avoid trusting someone who could easily harm them. Most beings are missing out on knowing you. Marcus surprised himself with how much he meant it. You're kind, brilliant, passionate about your work, patient with my endless questions. Why wouldn't I trust you? Their conversations shifted after that, became more personal, more vulnerable. Marcus shared his childhood moving between colonies, never quite belonging anywhere, choosing cultural liaison work because understanding difference felt more natural than trying to fit in. Zara talked about adolescence being bigger than everyone, constantly reminded she was too much, learning to make herself small metaphorically since she couldn't physically. I enjoy this, Zara admitted one evening as they walked through the observation deck. Stars streaked past the station's rotation, creating light show that made conversation feel more intimate. Spending time with you. Feeling like I'm not too much for once, like I can be myself without performing palatability. You should always be yourself. Anyone who can't handle that isn't worth your time. Easy to say. Harder to live when being yourself means isolation. She stopped walking, turning to face him. Marcus, I need to ask something. Us meeting regularly, spending time together, is this friendship, or are you interested in more? Marcus's heart rate spiked. He hadn't let himself think about it explicitly, but the answer was immediate and clear. I'm interested in more. If you are. I know there are complications, species differences, biological incompatibilities, cultural expectations. But yes, I'm interested in more than friendship. You're incredible, Zara. I'd be honored if you wanted to explore where this could go. Her ears shot straight up, joy, shock, disbelief cycling rapidly. You want to court me? Knowing I'm too big, too strong, too much. I want to be with you because of those things, not despite them. Marcus took her hand, his looking absurdly tiny wrapped around just two of her fingers. You're not too much, Zara. You're exactly right, for me at least, if you're interested. If I'm interested. She laughed, the sound carrying harmonics that resonated through Marcus's chest. I've been interested since you smiled at me in that corridor. Since you invited me to coffee like it was normal thing to do. Since you looked at me and saw person worth knowing instead of threat to avoid. Then we're on the same page. Marcus squeezed her fingers gently. Want to figure this out together? Fair warning. I have no idea how human Catherine courtship works. We'll probably mess it up spectacularly. I don't care about courtship protocols. I care that someone finally sees me. Her skin glowed warm copper in the starlight. Let's figure it out together. They started what could technically be called dating, though neither knew exactly what that meant across species lines. Catherine courtship involved strength displays Marcus physically couldn't perform. Human dating involved activities designed for similar-sized partners that their significant differences made awkward, so they created their own path. Shared meals in restaurants with adaptive seating. Walks through the observation deck where Zara could lift Marcus to see things from her height perspective. Long conversations about everything and nothing. Building intimacy through genuine affection rather than cultural scripts neither fit. The station noticed. Gossip rippled through multiple species communities. The enormous Catherine woman and the human cultural liaison, openly together, clearly devoted. Reactions varied from supportive to judgmental to confused. Is this difficult for you? Zara asked one evening in her quarters, space modified to accommodate her size that made Marcus feel like he'd shrunk. Dealing with judgment and gossip about our relationship. People have always judged me for I did quite forcefully. One may need medical attention. Her expression suggested she wasn't sorry. They don't want me. They want to prove they can take what human has. It's about ego. Then they don't deserve you. Their loss my gain. Marcus took her hand. I'm not with you to prove anything. I'm with you because you're kind, brilliant, fascinating, and I feel more myself with you than I ever have alone. You're very small, Zara observed, running her thumb gently across his hand, the gesture achingly careful. I could hurt you so easily. Does that ever frighten you? Should it? You've never been anything but gentle. But I could be. Don't you worry about capability mismatch. No, because relationships aren't about physical strength. They're about trust, respect, affection. Marcus smiled up at her. I trust you completely. You're the strongest person I know and you choose to be kind. That's what matters. Besides, I like that you're bigger and stronger. Makes me feel safe. Safe? She repeated the word like it was foreign. Most beings feel threatened by my strength. You feel safe. Because I trust your gentleness more than I fear your capability. You could hurt me easily, but you won't. That's what makes you safe. He squeezed her hand. Stop worrying about your strength. I love your strength. It's part of what makes you, you. They navigated challenges together. Size differences requiring furniture modifications. Cultural expectations from both species suggesting they were betraying some unspoken loyalty. The logistics of physical affection when one partner was 8 feet of solid muscle, and the other was average human proportions. But they made it work through patience, communication, and genuine affection that transcended every practical complication. 6 months into their relationship, Marcus's supervisor called him into a meeting with an expression that suggested either excellent news or terrible problem. Turned out to be both. We're offering you a promotion, his supervisor said without preamble. Cultural liaison position on Earth, headquarters posting. Significant prestige, excellent career advancement, triple your current salary. Marcus's stomach sank. What's the catch? You'd have to leave Nexus Station. Earth posting requires physical presence. It's excellent opportunity, Marcus. Recognition of your outstanding work here. When would I need to decide? 2 weeks. I know it's complicated with your personal situation, but this is your career we're talking about. Marcus left the meeting feeling like he'd been gut-punched. Promotion he'd worked toward for years. Position that could define his entire career. and it required leaving Zara, ending the relationship that had become the most important thing in his life. He told her that evening in her quarters, the words feeling like lead. They offered me Earth posting, headquarters liaison position. It's a big deal, career-defining opportunity. Zara's ears flattened completely, pain, resignation, anticipated loss. You should take it. It means leaving you. Leaving Nexus Station. I'm not interested in long-distance relationship across solar systems. Then we end things amicably. Her voice was carefully controlled, but her skin cycled through dark amber tones that suggested she was dying inside. You pursue your career. I continue my work. We both knew this was temporary. Did we? Because I didn't think this was temporary. I thought we were building something real. Real things end when circumstances change. That's reality. Her ears trembled despite her controlled tone. You should take the promotion, Marcus. It's what you've worked for. And leave you, just walk away from what we've built. Marcus moved closer. I don't want the promotion if it means losing you. You're not temporary. You're the most important thing that's happened to me. You'd give up career advancement for me. Her skin flashed bright copper, shock, hope, disbelief. You'd sacrifice professional opportunity to stay with too big, too strong Keithran, who can't even fit in standard quarters. In a heartbeat, without hesitation, without regret, he took her hands. You're worth more than any promotion. More than any prestigious posting. I'm staying, Zara, unless you want me to go. If you're done with this relationship, say so, but if you want me to stay, I'm staying. I love you. The words burst out like they'd been held back too long. I don't know if that violates some human custom or if it's too forward, but I need you to know. I love you, Marcus Rivera. You saw me when everyone else looked away. You smiled when everyone else averted their eyes. You made me feel like person worth knowing. I love you completely. I love you too. Marcus's voice cracked with emotion. Your strength, your kindness, your brilliant mind, your terrible jokes about cargo physics. Everything about you. I'm not leaving. Career can wait, you can't. They held each other. Awkward because of their size difference. Perfect because of their commitment. Marcus declined the promotion the next day, explicitly citing personal reasons he wouldn't elaborate on despite his supervisor's pressing. Station gossip went into overdrive. The human liaison turned down Earth posting for the Keithran woman. Some thought it was romantic. Others thought it was career suicide. Neither Marcus nor Zara cared about the gossip. They built a life together. His apartment and her quarters got connected through station administration cooperation, facilitated by Marcus's liaison position and Zara's respected work status. Neither space alone accommodated both, but together they created home. She lifted heavy things for him. He reached high shelves for her. She could reach them easily. She let him help anyway because it made him happy. They navigated biological differences with humor and patience and stubborn commitment to making it work. Years passed. They became station fixture. The enormous Keithran and her human partner, living proof that connection transcended species boundaries and size differences, and every assumption about compatible partnerships. Other Keithrans started approaching Zara, not with courtship but with curiosity. How had she found partnership? How did interspecies relationship work? Her isolation had been example of what happened to statistical outliers. Her happiness became example of what was possible with openness. You changed my life, Zara told Marcus one evening on the observation deck where they'd had their conversation about courtship. Stars streaked past, eternal and beautiful, witnessing their small but significant happiness. You changed mine. Showed me that home isn't a place but a person. That belonging comes from acceptance rather than similarity. He squeezed her hand. I'm glad I smiled at you that day. Second best decision you made. Her skin glowed warm in the starlight. Best was choosing to stay when you could have left. Not even a choice. You're home. Why would I leave home? Because I'm too big, too strong, too much. But she said it teasingly now without the pain of years of rejection. Because you're exactly right. For me, for this, for everything. Marcus grinned. Besides, someone has to keep you from accidentally breaking things. It's important work. You're ridiculous. You love me. I really, really do. She lifted him effortlessly, a gesture that had become their version of embrace, bringing his face level with hers. Thank you, Marcus, for seeing me, for smiling, for staying. Thank you for being worth seeing, worth smiling at, worth staying for. He kissed her gently. Love you, Zara, my too big, too strong, exactly perfect partner. Love you too, my strange, wonderful human who chose me over everything else. They stood together on the observation deck, an impossible couple who'd proven that courage is sometimes as simple as smiling at someone everyone else fears, and that true strength includes the vulnerability to accept that smile and dare to hope. Marcus had seen isolation and chosen kindness. Zara had accepted kindness despite years teaching her to expect nothing. Together they built something that transcended every assumption about compatibility, proving that the most powerful connections often start with the simplest gestures. A smile offered without fear, accepted with hope, grown into love that defied every prediction. Sometimes all it takes to change someone's life is daring to see them, daring to smile, daring to stay when leaving would be easier. Marcus and Zara had dared, and in daring they'd found everything. 5 years after their relationship began, Marcus woke to find Zara watching him with an expression he'd learned, meant she was processing something significant. Her ears were angled in complex patterns, concern mixed with hope mixed with something else he couldn't quite identify. You're thinking very loudly, Marcus observed, his voice rough with sleep. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, I'm just thinking about how improbable this is. She gestured between them. Us. You're human, I'm Catherine. You're small, I'm enormous. We shouldn't work by any logical analysis of compatibility. And yet we do. Better than any relationship I've seen. Are you having doubts? Marcus pushed himself up, suddenly awake. Because if this isn't working for you. The opposite. I'm having certainty. Her skin glowed warm copper in the morning light filtering through their quarters. I'm thinking about how a random human smiled at me 5 years ago and changed my entire existence. How you chose me over career advancement. How you've never made me feel like I'm too much. And I'm wondering. She paused, her ears trembling slightly. I'm wondering if you want to formalize this. Make it permanent in ways that both our cultures recognize. Marcus's brain took a moment to process. Are you asking me to marry you, or the Catherine equivalent? Both if possible. I know there are legal complications with interspecies bonding, but Earth recognizes cross-species partnerships now, and Catherine law allows formalized bonds with non-Catherines if both parties consent. Her words came faster, nervous energy breaking through her usual controlled demeanor. I want everyone to know you're mine and I'm yours. I want formal recognition that we're not temporary, not experimental, not something that ends when complications arise. I want permanent, Marcus, with you. Yes, Marcus didn't need to think about it. Absolutely yes. I want permanent too. I want everyone knowing you're my partner in every official capacity. I want legal recognition and cultural acceptance, and all the bureaucratic nonsense that comes with formalizing cross-species bonds. Zara's ears shot straight up, pure joy. You're certain this will complicate both our lives? Paperwork, legal reviews, cultural negotiations between Earth and Catherine authorities. Don't care, worth it. You're worth any complication. He climbed onto her chest. The position had become their version of intimate conversation, bringing them closer to eye level. Let's do it. Make this permanent. Show the galaxy that impossible relationships work when people are committed. The formalization process turned out to be exactly as bureaucratically complicated as Zara warned. Earth required extensive documentation proving relationship legitimacy. Catherine authorities needed cultural verification that bond met traditional standards despite species differences. Nexus Station administration had to approve residential arrangements for formalized interspecies partnerships. But they navigated it together, filling out forms and attending interviews and explaining repeatedly that yes, they were serious. No, the size difference wasn't problematic. Yes, they understood the cultural implications. No, they didn't care about the judgment. The ceremony itself merged traditions from both cultures. Catherine's strength displays, Zara lifting massive weights while Marcus demonstrated human-equivalent feats of endurance. Earth exchange of vows, personal promises spoken publicly. Nexus Station administration officiating to satisfy local legal requirements. Their friends attended, Marcus's human colleagues, Zara's Catherine co-workers who'd gradually accepted her relationship as proof that outliers could find happiness. Even some of the Catherine males who'd previously avoided Zara came, their presence awkward but appreciated acknowledgement that attitudes were changing. "I never thought I'd have this," Zara said during the reception, her hand encompassing Marcus's completely. "Partnership, acceptance, public celebration of relationship I was told was impossible. You gave me this. You and your ridiculous willingness to smile at someone everyone else avoided. You gave me purpose beyond career," Marcus countered. "Showed me that belonging comes from connection rather than achievement. That home is person rather than place. We gave this to each other." Years continued passing. They grew into their formalized partnership, learning each other's rhythms and needs with the kind of intimacy that comes from genuine commitment. Marcus occasionally traveled for cultural liaison work, but always returned to Nexus Station, to Zara, to home. Zara's work gained recognition, her expertise in heavy cargo logistics leading to consulting opportunities across multiple systems. She traveled sometimes too, but always came back to Marcus, to their connected quarters, to the life they'd built. Other Catherines started forming relationships with non-Catherines, Zara and Marcus's visible happiness proving that cross-species partnerships could work. The station's interspecies relationship rate increased notably, leading to policy changes accommodating diverse pairings. "We accidentally started a movement," Marcus observed one evening, reading reports about increased cross-species partnerships on Nexus Station and beyond. "We accidentally proved that assumptions about compatibility are often wrong." Zara pulled him close, the gesture still careful despite years of trust. That physical differences matter less than emotional connection. That courage sometimes means smiling at someone everyone else fears. And that isolation ends when someone dares to see you. Marcus kissed her hand. "I'm glad I dared. I'm glad I let you. That I didn't retreat when you smiled. That I accepted coffee invitation instead of assuming it was mistake or obligation." Her ears angled forward, contentment, love, belonging. "Best decision I made. Second best. Best was asking me to formalize our bond. Fair point, that was excellent decision." She grinned, the expression still remarkable on her usually controlled face. "You're stuck with me